Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video I want to talk about the first of the OVAs building off from the Suisei no Gargantia anime series, which I frankly had no idea that they had gone and done. There's already been one released, and I believe there's going to be a second half to it released later in this year as of the time of this recording. This was all brought to my attention by a friend over on Facebook, Mike. Thank you, sir, for sharing the article that was talking about these, because I probably otherwise would have missed entirely that they'd made OVAs building off this series, which is very much beloved as far as I'm concerned. I absolutely love Gargantia, the alternative title, of course, being Gargantia on the Verdurous Planet. In the case of this OVA, I had known, if you buy the DVD, there are two special episodes. One is kind of a flashback episode dealing with Ridget's history, and another episode is dealing with Commander Kugel and how he sort of became this messiah sort of figure for, that little sort of offshoot fleet that toward the end of the series proper, Leto and all the characters, Gargantia basically gets flummoxed by and everything like that. And not to be confused with those two special episodes are these two OVAs, a completely new story set within the environment of Gargantia with the characters, written by Gen Urobuchi as well, and everything like that. And this first OVA was just really enjoyable to me because I'm getting back into that world. It felt like I never left. There's been some passage of time. Leto has very much made it sort of a daily routine, working in the Yun burrows and everything like that. They're doing excavation underwater, archaeology, as Bellows sort of ribs him, he calls it, and all this kind of stuff. And in the OVA, they find this, whole fleet of sunken ships, one of which actually seems salvageable, and it's one that Leto pinpoints. It has all kinds of necessary components inside its storage areas and everything like that, so it's really just a windfall prize to be had, this particular ship that they find. And they're planning on basically going back down and trying to pull the whole thing up, instead of just bits and pieces. It's so intact, they think they can get it all up in one fell swoop. And we're also introduced in this particular OVA to a brand new character. I believe this was the character they held a contest for, potentially design your own character, and the winner will be featured in the anime. And this is the character of Lima. She is a questionable character to a point because, wow, is she super uber obsessed with trying to learn the history of Leto and Chamber, his machine caliber, which is no longer with us in the OVA, but we do actually get to see through flashbacks and such like that. She's basically trying to find out the story of Leto's coming to Gargantia and, what the whole interaction between Leto and the machine caliber, how that all shaped up. Amy and Leto tell her this grand story, which takes up a nice chunk of this OVA, about when Gargantia had been in sort of the early stages of his being there, inundated with this gigantic tsunami, this storm, and one of the ships of the fleet had broken loose and was cascading away, was possibly going to come back and hit Gargantia, the main fleet, and all this stuff. And you had Amy and Saya, because it was Saya's sort of community ship that had broken loose. They were trapped on board and everything, and unfortunately Leto at the moment had to help straighten another vessel that was coming loose and all this kind of stuff. So you basically see that Leto and Chamber are on full display in hero mode as far as what they're capable of, being able to save lives. Once they straighten the first ship, Leto immediately takes Chamber and they go and save Saya and Amy and everything like that. There's enough expositionary information going on that you could pretty much just watch from here and understand, sort of the components of the way the world works and how the characters, interact and everything. And so you have this Lima character very much poised to want to learn more. There's a couple occasions where she's sort of eavesdropping, whether purposely or not remains to be seen, on Amy and Leto and some of their conversations. I mean, you see basically everybody you love from the series showing up. Bellows, Saya, as I say, Ridget, Pinion, Luckage, and some of these characters become integral to the story because you have a point where where when they call back on this new vessel that Leto has pinpointed to be excavated, and they want to pull this whole thing up, in the transition effect of, bringing down wire work and all these components to be able to try to lift this thing, something inherently goes wrong, and it kind of plays into that whole flashback story of how Leto would do anything to try to save lives. He would go to the nth degree, basically it was the fact that he would do this that Amy and Saya survived that storm and everything like that, and it kind of comes full circle, because then we find Leto ends up becoming trapped when something goes wrong when they're trying to pull up this vessel. And it seems very much as though his life has been snuffed. That's it. He's not going to survive this. And you have the character of Lima, her entire crew, who you find out are basically holdovers from that Kugel era. They've took in all the survivors who had fallen prey to Kugel's, Messiah complex with his own machine caliber. As we saw toward the end of the series proper, there was that big battle between Chamber and Kugel's machine caliber, and Chamber sacrifices himself for Leto's, greater good, and all this kind of stuff. It all comes full circle, because all of these people now are the ones who are going to risk their lives to save Leto. While Bellows and Rigid, they're all kind of like, we just can't risk, with the dangers involved, any of our Yunburos, any of our people, any of the lives for one guy, with all the stuff that is crashing down underwater. We can't really do anything. It's ironically Lima's, survivor cultist group, if you will, who ends up making the choice for them. They're going to go down and they're going to save Leto. And Leto's life effectively is saved by the end. And it's absolutely mind-boggling, because, and this is where I'm going to have to give you a major spoiler warning, because there is a twist toward the end of this that completely explains why it is this Lima character seems so kind of sort of off. And so warning ahead of time, if you haven't seen it, you want to go check it out before I spoil it for you, please click off the video and go check it out. Otherwise, you'll be sticking with me. That's enough of the warnings. And here is the twist toward the end. You have this Lima going in and, basically going into her, I guess, section, the ship that's designated for her people, into one of the holds. And there is what seems to be a Yunburo under a tarp, which she's looking very ominously at. She pulls free the tarp and says, okay, it's time for phase 2, or to put phase 2 into action, something along those lines. And immediately you see the eyes lighting up. In communication form, it is a machine caliber. Whoa. Okay, whose machine caliber is this? It can't be Kugel's. We saw Kugel's disintegrated by Chamber. It can't be Chamber, because we saw Chamber destroyed effectively. There is a hint toward the end of the series that there might be another machine caliber under the ocean effectively, but I don't think that's the machine caliber we're dealing with. And so that raises the question, as we're going to be moving on into the second half of this OVA later in the year, as I say, what the hell? Whose machine caliber is this? Is this one that was like an artifact that was uncovered by this fleet? Is this Lima character, because she is doing the voice interface and she is commanding this machine caliber? Is she someone from Leto's fleet? We never really got to see, if memory serves, any sort of female soldiers in that sort of environment. Was this a machine caliber that was attuned to her, and she's actually a member of this Gargantia Waterworld environment? Or does she hail from that sort of futuristic, humanity versus Hideos set that basically Leto came from? It all remains to be seen, but it's entirely, extremely exciting, because now it all makes sense. Why was Lima so obsessed to learn about Leto and his sort of formatting himself and trying to fit into the Gargantia framework? Why is she so obsessed with the way Yunburos work? And she seems to look at it as though there's a couple of scenes where she's even asking one of, Pinion's right-hand mechanic women, whose name escapes me. She's really obsessively asking about how the components of a Yunburo work and how they're constructed. And suddenly it's like, the bell's going off in my head. She doesn't know. It's not that she's interested from the point of view of just one of these, girls who goes around handing out mail like Amy and her friends and everything like that. She actually doesn't know how the Unboroughs work. That says to me that either it's because she's been really closed off from the world, or she is hailing from the same sort of military regiment that Leto hails from. And all hell is apparently going to be breaking loose, because if you see the trailer for OVA Part 2, holy crap, it looks like civil war is peaked to happen between the people of Gargantia, or at least between the Gargantians and, you know, this faction that this Lima girl represents, the former mind-bent, you know, Messiah complex cult. And it's just amazing to me, because there were a couple surprises character-wise in this particular OVA, like I say, with Luckage being a very heroic character. We know she was the villain in the series proper, and here she's one of the integral factors in saving Leto's life. Nobody's going to die on her watch is a line of dialogue she has, and such like that. You know, the idea that all of these people have formatted together and they've all sort of adapted themselves to work as a, you know, an entire working unit is absolutely fascinating. And then to learn that there are still outside elements who are making a good show of being part of that mechanic, being part of that dynamic of, you know, everyone fitting in together, but they may have more ominous and foreboding sort of, you know, things that they have in the works, you know, essentially, especially this Lima character with her own machine caliber. It's like, mind blown. I can't wait to see where we go in the follow-up OVA to this. And so, yeah, I couldn't more highly recommend, if you're a fan of Suisei no Gargantia, you check out the OVAs. This one is, of course, called Suisei no Gargantia Meguru Koro Haruka. And it's OVA number 1 in that sort of aesthetic. You know, that's the overarching title. But this is part 1 of that. And it's just, wow. I loved it. I loved being back in the Gargantia world, you know, reminiscing with these characters and seeing a whole new story unfold all amongst the calling back to things we hadn't, you know, seen before and everything. And the surprise toward the end, as I say, that shock of, you know, oh crap, Lima actually has a machine caliber. What's going on with that? It was just a great watch, you know, overall. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought, if you've seen the OVA of this particular building off from that original Gargantia story, that entire series. And if not, go check it out and let me know what you thought of it after the fact. So otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.